back to the SHODcast. This is season 2 with your host Matt McKenney, Mike Height. I'm Sean Klein. Matt, it's been a hell of a week this week, and Mike, you came up with a big win against This Is Fine. So let's get right into the scores. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
The first matchup, the Flutie Flakes versus the Fat Jims. Mike, what happened here?
Flutie Flakes came out swinging. I mean, the kid had Alexander Madison sit on his bench and didn't play him, but I mean, they still put up big numbers. Cole Beasley put up 1.5 points, and Neil's team really didn't show up. So that's what I expected, and that's what came through.
And Matt McKenney, my team got the high score for another week this year. What do you think of Muppet Nation's performance against Revenge of Ed Kilgore?
Yeah, pretty special. Over 200 points, which is definitely a threshold that not many teams have broken, and we haven't seen in too many weeks in the show. But I mean, just direct your attention down to Justin Herbert. I mean, absolutely phenomenal performance in the late game on Sunday in a back and forth match against the Browns. That seemed to be what really got it done for Muppet Nation, amongst others. I mean, there's two other players, both Marquise Brown and Mike Williams of that same Chargers team. And then Marquise Brown on Monday Night Football had over 30 points. So very, very thrilling 200-point victory for Klein.
And New World Order comes up with the win in a close one against Armin Tamzarian.
Yeah, I mean, NWO's quarterbacks are just way better than Armin's. I mean, just pretty much other than Eckler, I would take NWO's team for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's just what came out. Brady had 5
How can you argue with the GOAT?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was incredible, and that defense is not as bad as they looked.
Not at all. The El Barbill Charbacues get their first win over the Rusty Truckers. Matt, what happened to your team, and why'd you lose to El Barbill Charbacues? How'd you give up the first win?
Well, I got to say, I wasn't expecting Davis Mills to outscore Matthew Stafford by halftime, but that's exactly what happened. And honestly, it didn't get any better from there. Charbacues, aside from Davis Mills, had a good game out of James Robinson, and Mahomes, a little bit of a down week, but still almost 20 points. And then a couple tough injuries on my side of things was enough for Charbacues to get his first win. So congrats to Steve on that. And
we'll get in those injuries shortly. Daniel Lafferty, Mike Height's team, you come up with the upset win over My Team Is Fine, 155.08 to 111.66. Who's the guy that got it done for your team?
I mean, it's definitely Mark Andrews. I mean, Pittman had a great game too on Monday night. I mean, I was down by 19, I think, going into Monday night, and I ended up winning by 40 plus points. So it was a big showing by the boys, and I called it. So always happy to see that.
You did. And I think this is the last matchup here. The Van Buren boys coming up with the second most points, 197 on the board against Field Rush.
Yeah, calling us all liars, right? I mean, we all were like off the Van Buren boys bandwagon. We were saying, man, this team is like, they're dust, like it's over, and then he goes up and puts up almost 200 points, thanks in large part to Lamar Jackson on Monday night. His second half was pretty remarkable, a huge comeback for the Ravens. But I mean, aside from him, I mean, he still had solid outings from DK Metcalf and Kyle Pitts and Chase Claypool. So, this team is very resilient and certainly not looking to go away anytime soon.
Oh, there is one more game. Rafi Bombs against Jay Walsh football team. Another squeaker there, but Rafi Bombs came up with it.
Yeah, definitely the London game of the week here. Not much going on. I mean, Rafi Bombs squeaked it out by 3 points, but I mean, really, other than Lawrence, nobody really did much of anything in this matchup. Russ,
a win's a win, and I'm sure Rafi will take it.
Yep.
Heading into the injury report, we've got a lot to talk about this week, and we have our own expert, Matthew McKenney, to break it down for you. The first big injury of the week had to be Russell Wilson's hand. That thing looked mangled. Matt, what's going on?
Yeah, Russell Wilson suffered what we call a mallet finger, which is basically a laceration of the extensor tendon of the distal portion of the finger or the tip of the finger. What that means is that he can no longer extend his finger completely. And that's obviously an issue when you're trying to grip and throw a football, and when you're trying to take a snap from your center, because that finger is going to get in the way every time you try to extend that finger and allow for the ball to be held and basically kept safe in a throwing motion. He's not going to be able to do that. So the treatment for this type of problem is generally immobilization with your finger completely straight in a splint for 4 to 6 weeks. So you can expect for him to be out for about that amount of time. And the Seahawks, it's going to be a problem for them, I think.
Yeah, I think this is going to completely derail their offense. I mean, Lockett hasn't been playing well the last couple of weeks, so I think he's borderline unusable. Metcalf, flex play at most. I mean, I don't see much good coming from this team. I mean, Geno looked okay, but I mean, I think he's going to go for a lot tomorrow on the waiver wire, but I mean, he's definitely not Russell Wilson.
I was just going to say, no faith in Geno Smith, huh? All right, the next injury, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Matt, what happened with him? It was a knee injury.
Hilaire's got a medial collateral ligament injury, so that's the MCL, which is the inside portion of the knee. These ligament injuries do not require surgery, even if it's a complete tear. But there is a grading scale that we use to kind of decipher which injuries are more severe. Grade 1 generally is just a little bit of a stretch. It's a 1 to 2 week injury. Grade 2 is a little bit more of a stretch. It's not really quite completely torn, maybe a partial thickness tear. And that's generally a 3 to 4 week injury. And then complete tears of the MCL generally take about 6 weeks to recover from. So I'm not really exactly sure where CEH follows on that spectrum. I don't know how severe the MCL injury is, but him going to the IR pretty much tells us that it's at least a grade 2. So obviously the Chiefs will have to look elsewhere for their options there.
Yeah, they're going to need some help on running back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Darrell Williams is going to be primary back, but McKinnon's going to mix in. And I mean, they're really not interested in running the ball, so I don't think it's going to be a huge get for whoever. I guess Luke Holmes got Williams, so we'll see what happens.
For our third injury, this is a twofer. Matt, you got to diagnose two people here. You got Saquon Barkley and Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. What happened to the both of them this week to derail that Giants offense?
Yeah, well, starting with Barkley, he kind of had a very awkward injury. He actually stepped on another player's foot, and it's a common injury in basketball when you are jumping up in the air and coming down after a rebound or after a layup or dunk or something like that. You actually land on somebody's ankle or their foot, and then you in turn roll your ankle. And Barkley had that same thing happen to him towards the end of a play. He wasn't even really actually in the play. It was kind of to the side. And what he sustained is called an inversion ankle injury, where your ankle kind of bows out, and the foot bends inwards. Generally, that's a less complicated and less problematic injury, or the side of the ankle that's a little bit more favorable to injure. So might actually be a preferable injury. But we're looking at potentially several weeks where he's going to be out. It really depends on how he does in practice, how rehabilitation goes, how the ankle feels, whether he's got good stability in that ankle. So I think this is definitely a fluid situation. We could be looking from anywhere from a week to week situation where he may be potentially able to miss one game and come back, or he may be out for an extended period of time.
And Daniel Jones.
Yeah, so Daniel Jones is going to be even more variable, I think, than Saquon. Even he's got a concussion. He has to go through the league concussion protocol. This type of injury is very, very difficult to predict in terms of when players are able to return. Brain injuries in general are just very, very they're so fluid. So we'll just have to see how he responds. He's going to have to pass some physical tests, and we could see him back on the field this coming week. It could be multiple weeks, so we'll see.
Mike, how's this going to affect the Giants offense, and how's it going to affect other owners in the show who might have pieces of that Giants offense?
Yeah, I mean, Matt took a big hit. I mean, Jones has been playing great for him all season. I mean, that was a scary sequence of events there. I mean, he came within a yard of scoring a touchdown, and he was knocked out cold. I mean, he swallowed some of the rubber pellets from the field, and I thought he was like spitting out teeth, but thankfully he was just like spitting out the rubber pellets. But I don't know. I mean, the Giants, it's never a good sign when Evan Ingram is like your top weapon at this point in time. I mean, who knows what's going on with Tony? He got a little banged up and got kicked out of the game for punching the guy. So I don't know. This game, this team is just a mess right now.
So mostly sits on that team. That's the opinion of Mike Height. Heading into our last injury lineup here, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. Matt, what happened to him, and how long is he going to be out?
We'll take a look at how the team doctor here, or the trainer, is holding Juju's shoulder, or that arm there, and you can tell just by looking at this that he's in a decent amount of pain. And from what I understand, Juju's got some shoulder instability that he's dealing with, and it's incredibly painful for you to even hold your arm just kind of supported like that, which is why that gentleman there with the glasses wrapped around his neck is holding his arm in place. But from what I understand, he's going to be undergoing season-ending surgery on his shoulder, probably a labral repair, maybe even a little bit of additional stability surgery that's done arthroscopically. And what I'm told is that he's going to miss the remainder of the season. So obviously a big hit to the Steelers offense that's already really not that special. So we'll see.
Mike, do you have the same opinion on the Steelers as you do the Giants?
No, my opinion on the Giants on the Steelers really hasn't changed. Ben is just an absolute plug back there. But I think this helps Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. It's just going to be more targets that we're going to go Juju's way that are just going to be split up between the two of them. I don't think Ben really trusts Washington or anybody else that's, in the receiving corps. I could see it helping Najee a little bit. Just got like one or two targets more a week, but I don't know. I don't think this is going to really change anybody's fortunes other than who has Juju. Brandon. I don't know. I don't think it's going to really change too much.
Injured wide receivers in an NWO matchup. Heading into the SHODcast power rankings for this week, where will the NWO lie? Because they keep taking out those wide receivers from other teams. But at number 14.
Yeah, Steve. Coming off a big win over the Truckers, but still hanging out in the basement.
Number 13.
Armin Tamzarian. Yeah, this is the most uninspiring team in the show, I think.
12.
Jay Walsh football team. Lost a close one to the Rafi Bombs, and they dropped to 12. Yeah, they dropped.
Yep, still struggling to put up points there. Number 11.
Yeah, Daniel Lafferty, a little bit of a spike after the underdog victory last week, and I think trending upwards. So we'll see how high he can climb here.
See if Lafferty can keep that trend going. Number 10.
Field of Rush. We all picked them last week, right? To beat the Van Buren boys, and they didn't show up for them, so we punished them this week.
Down to 10. Number 9. Matt, it's your Rusty Truckers.
Yeah, Rusty Truckers with a big drop this week. Obviously, some big-time injury damage. A couple people that we featured just a moment ago with Daniel Jones and Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting injured. So pretty much that's a big reason why this drop is happening here.
Teams on life support. Number 8.
The Rafi Bombs, they squeaked one out against the Jay Walsh football team. I think they're a good team. They've just, played some, not last week, but they've faced some high-scoring teams. So I don't know. I think they're appropriately ranked at 8.
Number 7, Fat Jims. They stay there.
Yeah, the Fat Jims, they actually put up a decent point total this last week. I think they were in excess of 130 points, which, in most weeks is actually pretty good. We had a really high-scoring week in the show. So, comparatively speaking, he didn't really put up a lot of points, but, still getting some wins. He's still kind of in the positive column at 3-2. So hanging out, he's still a playoff team technically.
And at number 6.
Yeah, Trek. They're, I think, second or third in points overall. They've been facing some high scoring teams. They've been getting unlucky. I think, by the end of the season, they'll be a playoff team.
Number 5. This was a drop too.
Yeah, it's a drop. I think it's more said about the teams ahead and how well they have been performing than it is about my team is fine. My team is fine kind of dropped a tough one last week to the Lafferty crew. So obviously, has to go down considering what we've got above him.
And that leads to number 4. Here's NWO. There's the big jump we were looking for from the New World Order.
Yeah, huge jump. They were at 8-9 last week. I mean, I don't know. They're a good team. They can stop having all these injuries. I think they may keep moving up.
And at number 3, the Van Buren boys getting back on the board. Last week they dropped quite a bit. This week they're back up in the top 3.
Yeah, that's what happens when you put up over 190 points. You get a little respect in the SHODcast power rankings.
Speaking of over 190 points, here's number 2.
Yeah, the Nation was my number 2 team, and I stand by it. I've been picking them pretty much all year, and I'm going to continue to do so. They're a very good team, and they've got some high-scoring players that are just going to continue to keep doing so.
And we all agreed on the number 1 team for the SHODcast power rankings, the Flutie Flakes.
Yeah, how can you go against them right now? I mean, it's Bill's onslaught, and it's a team that just keeps putting up a ton of points. And honestly, you look at the roster and you don't think immediately that they're going to be like one of the higher scoring rosters, but it's just happening week in and week out.
They keep putting up those points.
And if I knew how little I knew.
Now it's time for the Don Paul bad call. Matt, what's yours this week?
Well, I think you guys probably all could figure out that I'm not too happy with the results of the Colts game last night, but I want to talk specifically about the second half and the lack of defensive adjustment that happened in that game. The first half, they really held Lamar in check significantly. And then, they kind of went to a soft zone throughout the rest of the second half and just really allowed Lamar Jackson to pick them apart. And you knew that the game was over as soon as the Ravens won the toss. It was basically whoever got the ball first was going to win in that game, in my opinion. So, just disappointed with the lack of adjustments from the Colts defense. And that's my Don Paul bad call of the week.
Klein's Don Paul bad call of the week is just kickers in general, missing all over the place, extra points, game winners, game tying field goals. Everything seemed to be missed this week. And so if I'm an NFL coach, I'm thinking twice about sending my kicker out there, no matter how much faith I got in them. And I'm definitely not sending him out there on third down like the Packers did. That was just wild to me. So I'm putting kickers on my Don Paul bad call. Mike, what's yours?
Mine is kind of the news of the week. It's John Gruden. You shouldn't say those things in general, but you definitely shouldn't put them in an email for them to be pretty much archived forever. He was fired. I don't really think that the Raiders had much of a choice. I don't know what's going to happen.
He officially resigned, but
okay.
What we all know it was like a force.
Yes, right.
It was a force thing.
So I don't know. I mean, the Raiders obviously had a great start to the season. They've kind of cooled off recently. So I don't really know what's going to happen to their season. I think the Chiefs are definitely going to catch them, and I don't know. I think that they're definitely not a playoff team. So.
Yeah, Raiders season is in trouble. The next segment here is the dog picks, the Zoe Knows pick of the week, the only dog to come up with a win last week. Matt, who does Zoe have this week?
Yeah, unfortunately,
New World Order and the Rusty Truckers.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to go against my club this week, and I'm picking the New World Order. I just think NWO is really hot right now. He's putting up a lot of points. And considering the injuries to my club just kind of mounting up, and Kamara's on a bye this week. So I think New World Order, if he doesn't win this one, I don't know what to say. That's on him.
Zoe looking to go 2-0. The ride or die pick of the week. 0-1 last week, but can you catch up this week? You're going with the Nation over the Van Buren boys. This is a ballsy pick, Mike.
I don't think it's very ballsy. I mean, Herbert has been playing out of his mind, and I mean, you got two $1 receivers, Mike Williams and Marquise Brown. They're just playing. I mean, they're some of the best receivers in football. They're within the top 5, top 3. scored. So I mean,
they're very good.
I think they're going to continue to do that, and I think that the Nation is definitely going to come out with a W this weekend.
Riding the Nation, not giving any respect to the Van Buren boys once again. Let's see how that turns out this week. Snoop sleeper pick of the week. I talked to him earlier today, and he said, you know what? I'm sticking with my team is fine over Armin Tamzarian. He doesn't think Tamzarian has it. And after picking my team is fine last week and being upset with Mike, your team's performance, he's just going to ride on Vince Walsh's train here until he's able to come up with a win. So that's Snoop's sleeper pick of the week. Heading into this week's picks of the week, Van Buren boys, Muppet Nation. McKenny, you got the Van Buren boys.
Yeah, I'm on the Van Buren boys this week. I was really impressed with the way they put up a lot of points last week, and looking at the matchups, I think Van Buren boys has the edge. I see this being one of the highest scoring games of the week, so I definitely think both teams are going to put up some points, but I like VBB here.
Mike, you're sticking with the Muppet Nation.
Yep, I mean they're my ride or die for the week, so.
And I can't looking at the matchup, same thing, Matt. I can't see a way that the Nation comes up with this unless some kind of miracle happens for me. New World Order, Rusty Truckers, McKenny, you're going New World Order?
Yeah, I am. I mean, that was my pick of the week for Zoe Knows, and I think that again, just the combination of the firepower that New World Order has, coupled with kind of the injury riddled and depleted Rusty Truckers team, I just think this is New World Order all day long.
Height, you feel the same way?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I was very disappointed in the Truckers' performance last week. I really wanted Steve to go 0-14, just didn't happen. And I mean, just losing Jones is going to be a huge loss for the Truckers. I mean, I guess he could play this weekend, but I don't really see it happening.
Yeah, I think the Truckers are falling apart here. I'm also going New World Order. Armin Tamzarian versus my team is fine.
Yeah, my team is fine. I think there's going to be a rebound here. I think it was a tough week for him last week. Didn't really put up the same numbers he's been putting up, the rest of the year. So I don't really think very highly of Armin Tamzarian. So I think my team is fine is a pretty safe pick right now.
Height, you're thinking the same thing.
Completely agree. I mean, it's not surprising that some of his guys came back down to earth. I mean, Sam Darnold was tied for the lead in rushing touchdowns. Probably not going to continue, but he's getting McCaffrey back this week, most likely. So that's going to be huge for the boys in the locker room.
And I think we got a shod sweep on that game and going my team is fine as well. Matt, you have Feel the Rush over the Charbs, the 14th ranked Charbs. No respect.
Yeah, no, the Charbacues got lucky last week. I don't think they're going to beat Feel the Rush this week. So, yeah, I think it's Rob Cav is going to have a pretty easy win this week, in my opinion.
How do you feel about the Charbs?
I'm just going to continue picking against them all season. I think it's going to, more times than not, it's going to be correct. But we do have a trade to announce. Feel the Rush just got...
This is happening live.
Robert Tanya and Dak Prescott in exchange for Derek Carr and Dalton Schultz.
Happening live on the Shod, folks.
Wow.
Let's do a quick break. I'll finish this up because we're on the field of rush, the field of rush bandwagon here. But quick responses on that trade while we're talking field of rush.
Yeah, I mean, so anytime you can get a quarterback, it's a pretty good trade. But right now we're seeing a quarterback swap, and field the rush. To be totally honest with you, I think that field the rush is a runaway winner here. I think Dak Prescott has an enormous amount of upside that Derek Carr just doesn't have. We were all talking earlier about how the Raiders seem to be falling apart. They were overachieving early on in the season. And quite frankly, I think that Rob Cav, may have just become a contender with this deal.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I know from in discussions with Lacombe that he was panicking about his tight end situation. But I don't think this was the move to make. I mean, Carr, I think Lacombe was very numbers driven. And I think that the way that Carr played early in the season said to him, like, I think he's still probably in like top 5, top 7 quarterbacks on the season. And that's probably all they looked at. It's like, yeah, I'm getting top 7 quarterback and tight end's playing great right now. And I don't know. I just don't think he has the foresight to see that it's not going to continue.
We'll
But
see how it
is
pans out.
Schultz even an upgrade from Tanyan? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
don't even know.
Tanyan's been putting up like 4 points a week. Like, Schultz is like the number 3 option in Dallas. So
Yeah, I get it, but maybe, I mean, Tanyan had like 12 touchdowns last year. Who was to say he doesn't start coming on here? I just don't think it's enough to come back if you're dealing in Dak Prescott, in my opinion.
I completely agree.
Well, it sounds like Field of Rush is coming out with the Shod win on that one. Heading into our last 3 matchups, we have Lafferty Daniel against the Jay Walsh football team. McKenny, who are you going with?
I think Lafferty stays hot. I think he had a good win last week, and I think Jay Walsh football team is, again, kind of solidifying himself towards the bottom of the league. A relatively uninspiring team, and I think that again, Lafferty, I think is going to continue to get better and better play from Justin Fields. I think last week was, kind of a learning game for him. The last 2 weeks really have been that for Fields. So I like Lafferty here.
Height?
Yep, I'm going with myself on this one. Jay Walsh, they're kind of not that I'm not a basement team right now, but I feel like we're trending in the right direction. So we're going to keep
Battle of the basements. I think we're all on Lafferty for this one. Rafi Bums and Fat Jims. McKenny, do you think your brother has what it takes to defeat the Rafi Bums this week?
Well, it's a close one. Everybody knows I really do like Rafi Bombs, but after looking the matchup, I think Fat Jims has a little bit of a narrow advantage here. I think Fat Jims in general is a little bit underrated. I think he kind of flies under the radar. As strongly as I felt about Rafi Bombs last week, I feel like he may be, maybe kind of running out of luck. He's not putting up a lot of points. I mean, let's be honest, he's not really scoring very well. And, Fat Jims has a solid team. So I think Fat Jims wins this week.
You disagree. Tell me why.
I do disagree. I mean, Neil's got some players on his team that scare me. I mean, Jonathan Taylor looked incredible last night. At least he did in the first half. I mean, they kind of went away from him for, I don't know why. But yeah, I like the Rafi Bombs team better overall. So I'm going with the Rafi Bombs.
Yeah, you know what? I am too. I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's gonna trend upwards in the right direction eventually. That just doesn't happen with a first overall pick where they just keep trending downwards. Even with the mess of the Urban Meyer show that's going on in Jacksonville. I think this could be a coming out week for Trevor Lawrence against Miami. I think it's a good matchup. The last matchup of the week, Trek against the Flutie Flakes. McKenny?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be the game of the week, right? I would think that the commish will put this on. I think we'll see Al and Chris taking this one for week 1, and I've got a little bit of an upset here. I think Trek, put up some decent points last week, and I think the Flutie Flakes is definitely consensus number 1 pick in the SHODcast power rankings. But I like the upset here.
Height, do you like the Bills' onslaught this week?
I do not. I mean, I think it's gonna be a high scoring game between the two of them. I think I could definitely see this matchup going down to Monday night. I mean, Henry versus pick your Bill with the Flakes, but we're getting into bye weeks, and that's what really concerns me about the kid. I mean, he doesn't pay a lot of attention to his team. This is when you really need to. I mean, Alexander Madison was a no-brainer pick or play last week, and he was just sitting on his bench. And so I think the kid's going to make some bad decisions in the coming week, and I can definitely see him dropping hard in the power rankings. 4 weeks from now.
No one has faith in the Flakes. Well, you know what? I do. I know Saquon Barkley's still on his starting roster, but but I've got hope that that's going to change before Sunday. So I'm picking the Flakes to come out with the win on this one and remain on top of the SHODcast power rankings. Now we get into this new segment called Talking Points. There are several things that you want to talk about this week, and there's no place to really let it out. Well, here it is. Matt, what's your talking point to get through to the show this week?
Yeah, well, we got a couple different ones today. I know we're going to talk a little bit about, kind of a decision between two receivers, two high-end receivers. And I think the first thing that we wanted to talk about was actually, it's escaping me now. It will remind me, guys, what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about just like tight ends and then just kind of how the league's going to, like, the format going forward.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. So the big thing is we've got, a few elite tight ends. You got the Kelseys and the Wallers and the Kittles. And, after that, it's kind of a little bit of a tight end. Mark Andrews. After that, it's kind of a little bit of a tight end wasteland. So we were just talking about, whether or not, we should think about revamping the scoring format for tight ends, or even just remove the tight end slot in general. Now, my personal opinion on the matter is that we should keep the tight end scoring the way it is. I think it's a big part of draft strategy to try to take a tight end who is a high level player and allocate a lot of your auction dollars towards that type of that player. Now, that being said, if you don't come away with one of those top end guys, you're probably going to be looking at streaming and playing players who could score anywhere from 0 to 6 points, and it wouldn't be surprising at all. But Mike, what do you think are some alternatives to that might fly in the show?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with one of your points. I think, a viable option would be just replace the tight end within our flex position, and then you're going to get the top end guys are still going to get drafted. It's just, I don't know. It's such a nightmare if you don't have one of those top 5 guys. I mean, you see guys putting up 0 points in a week, and I guess there's enough position scarcity right now in the show with quarterbacks. I just adding another position to that. I don't know. I don't think it really is working out well for the show currently.
My final opinion on that is I think it's part of the strategy. A couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, I actively employed that as part of my draft strategy, where I got both Travis Kelce and I think George Kittle. And then I think the year before it was Kelce and Ertz. I also identified the tight end position as a scarcity, where it's really only the top 4 or 5 players that really make a difference. And if you don't have one of those guys, your team is in dire straits. So I really thought that was part of the draft strategy, and try to gather as many of those guys as possible so that other teams are forced to start guys that might not put up the points. But on that note, I will also say that this year we've seen a much more diverse tight end class than I think we have in years past. Yeah, you still have Kelce at the top, but now you're seeing other newcomers come in like Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson and Dawson Knox. So I think the tight end position and scoring the way it is now is fine, but it's something to monitor as we move forward. Any other talking points you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, let's move it over to the wide receiver discussion.
All right, heading into the wide receiver, we're going to play a game called This or That. And this week's This or That question is, which wide receiver would you rather have on your fantasy team for the remainder of the year? Are you choosing Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams? Mike, let's start with you. Who are you going with?
I'm taking Tyreek the Freak. I mean, not a great person in general, but on the field, he's absolutely incredible. I mean, the Bills took him away by playing 2 deep safeties, but most teams don't have that ability. They don't have, they're not able to get the pressure up front. They don't have the corners to take guys away. And I mean, Devontae, he had a blow up week last week. I mean, 200 plus yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's pretty incredible, but Tyreek kind of has that capability almost every week. And Aaron Rodgers is no slouch, but I would much rather have Patrick Mahomes throwing my receiver the ball. So I would take Tyreek all day.
Tyreek Hill, currently the number 3 wide receiver in the league behind Cooper Kupp and Mike Williams. Devontae Adams, the number 4 wide receiver in the league, just behind Tyreek Hill. Hill has 117 points, and Devontae Adams has 116. Matt, who are you going with out of those two?
Yeah, I'm going to side with Adams here on this one. I do agree with Mike that Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. But I also think that there are some other options in that Kansas City offense, namely Travis Kelce, that, really do kind of cut into the target share somewhat. And with Adams, he is by far and away clearly the target funnel. There's some weeks where Tyreek Hill goes away. I think his ceiling is higher, but I also think his floor is quite a bit lower. Adams is almost guaranteed double-digit points every week. He almost scores every single week. And then he has his monster weeks also. So for that reason, I think I like Adams. I think he's just a little bit safer of a pick. He gives you that week in and week out fantasy output that you're looking for without the concern that you're just going to get a vacation.
So, McKenny, you're going with the lower ceiling instead of the lower floor. And Height, you're going with the higher ceiling instead of the lower ceiling. So, great discussion on those two. I think it's a great discussion to have. Heading into our next topic.
Who's that Pokemon?
This is new this year. This is a former 2011 Steelers wide receiver. Can you guess who it is? 211 points in the show that year, and he helped Ground McNair defeat Matt, your Rusty Truckers, in Week 5 of 2011 by a score of 106.6 to 75.2. Any guesses on who this could be? Put it in the group chat, and we look forward to unveiling who this mystery fantasy player is next week on the SHODcast. Any other things you guys want to talk about before we close out the show?
Not really. Another exciting week in the show. I think next week's going to bring more of the same, and I think it's going to be pretty fun to keep plowing through. This is like one of the most I think even years in the show. Like we're seeing like jumping all around the power rankings, and there's nobody's undefeated, nobody's winless. Thanks to Steve knocking me off last week, Steve. Thank you. But it just seems like everybody's got a chance to win every week, which is pretty exciting. And I don't think we can say that every year.
It's always a good year in the show. Mike Height, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. It was a very fun week. We've had some great primetime games, and I hope that continues.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to the SHODcast Season 2. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, take it easy.
See you guys.